Breaking. Sadiq Khan has just unleashed the most brutal attack on King Charles in modern British history. His exact words were so shocking that palace officials called emergency meetings at midnight. Within 72 hours, London erupted into chaos, and the unrest is now spreading across Britain. What happened next could destroy the relationship between the monarchy and Britain's major cities forever. If you want to see how this constitutional crisis unfolds, hit that subscribe button right now, because the next 48 hours could change everything you thought you knew about British politics. Here's what sparked the absolute meltdown. 3 days ago, King Charles made a decision nobody saw coming. At 9:15 a.m. on Tuesday morning, Buckingham Palace announced that His Majesty would personally intervene in London's housing crisis by opening royal estates to British families struggling with homelessness. His statement was crystal clear. While hardworking British families sleep in temporary, dark accommodation, we possess resources that must serve the nation. But Sadiq Khan wasn't grateful. The London mayor wasn't humbled by royal generosity, he was furious. Within 2 hours of the palace announcement, Khan called an emergency press conference that would ignite the biggest political firestorm of 2025. Standing outside City Hall at 11:47 a.m., Sadiq Khan delivered what witnesses described as the most aggressive attack on the monarchy any British politician has dared to make in living memory. His exact words were chilling. "King Charles thinks he can waltz into London politics and play savior?" Khan said, his voice shaking with fury. "This is performative charity from a billionaire family sitting on stolen wealth. London doesn't need royal handouts. We need the crown to pay their fair share in taxes." The crowd of journalists gasped audibly, but Khan wasn't finished. Jabbing his finger in the air, he continued, "For 300 years, the monarchy has extracted wealth from this city while Londoners suffered. Charles wants headlines? I'll give him headlines. Return the wealth you've hoarded or stay out of London's business." The fallout was swift and devastating. Within hours, the hammer fell across Britain. Conservative MPs erupted in fury. Labour's own shadow cabinet scrambled to distance themselves from Khan's remarks. Even longtime Republican activists admitted that Sadiq Khan had crossed a line that should never be crossed. Sources inside Westminster described absolute panic spreading through political corridors as the scale of Khan's miscalculation became horrifyingly clear. Meanwhile, British veterans who had served Queen Elizabeth II faithfully for decades continued to struggle to find affordable housing in the very capital they once defended. James Morrison, a 71-year-old Falklands veteran from Lewisham, now lives in a cramped bedsit, its walls covered in black mold. His pension barely covers rent that keeps climbing every year while landlords grow richer. "I fought for this country," James said, tears filling his eyes. "Now I can barely afford to live in it." His story isn't unique. It's the painful reality faced by thousands of British heroes across London. Margaret Fletcher, a 68-year-old former NHS nurse from Barking, spent 43 years caring for patients through Britain's darkest health crises. Today, she sleeps in her daughter's living room because her pension, just $642 a month, can't cover London rent. "I gave my whole life to this city's hospitals," Margaret told reporters with trembling hands. "Where's Sadiq Khan's housing plan for people like me?" These are the invisible victims of London's housing catastrophe. Pensioners who built modern Britain, now cast aside while City Hall focuses on global publicity stunts and empty virtue signaling. While veterans and retired workers suffer in silence, Sadiq Khan enjoys a mayoral salary of £152,734 plus expenses, along with taxpayer-funded accommodation, luxury offices, private security, chauffeur-driven cars, and foreign travel costing hundreds of thousands of pounds each year. The contrast is stark. Morally repulsive, some say. So much so that even Khan's own Labour colleagues are now questioning his judgment. And when King Charles offered real, tangible help to families like James Morrison and Margaret Fletcher's, Khan responded not with gratitude, but with vicious political attacks. The optics were disastrous for Labour's London power base. Then something unprecedented happened, something nobody saw coming. King Charles broke 70 years of royal protocol with a response that shattered every rule in the constitutional playbook. At 4:33 p.m. yesterday afternoon, during what was supposed to be a routine garden party at Buckingham Palace, His Majesty delivered an unscheduled address that left more than 300 guests in stunned silence. For those who question royal duty, let me be abundantly clear. This monarchy exists to serve Britain, not to engage in political theater with those who mistake publicity for...
The crowd erupted in applause that lasted nearly 4 minutes. Palace insiders later revealed that Charles personally rewrote the speech just hours earlier, ignoring senior courtiers who begged him to remain silent. One aide described the king as absolutely resolute, more determined than we've seen since the Queen's passing. His carefully chosen words carried devastating hidden meaning. By saying, "Those who mistake publicity for leadership," Charles wasn't just responding to Khan, he was exposing him as a shallow opportunist more concerned with headlines than with helping Londoners. The optics were catastrophic for Sadiq Khan, a sitting London mayor, publicly humiliated by the sovereign himself. Senior Labour MPs privately admitted they were mortified by the international embarrassment Khan had brought upon the party. But there was another layer to the king's intervention, one that made Khan's position even more precarious. Constitutional historians immediately recognized what Charles had done. Professor Helena Bradshaw of Cambridge University called it the most sophisticated use of soft constitutional power in modern royal history. By framing his housing initiative as service rather than politics, Charles positioned himself above partisan conflict, while simultaneously exposing Khan's attack as pure political opportunism. Even the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, broke his usual silence on political matters to praise the king's moral leadership in a time of national housing crisis. And then came the final blow. Muslim community leaders across London, the very groups Khan has long claimed to represent, began publicly distancing themselves from the mayor. Imam Abdullah Rahman of the East London Central Mosque issued a powerful statement. Attacking charitable works, regardless of who performs them, contradicts Islamic principles of compassion and gratitude. The statement cut deep. Khan has always portrayed himself as the voice of British Muslims, but now his own community was rebuking him for attacking the king's charitable initiative. The domino effect had begun. The backlash came immediately and brutally. Within just 90 minutes of King Charles's speech, more than £847 million had been pledged by private donors to the Royal Housing Initiative. 17 major British corporations announced new partnerships with royal-backed housing trusts, while property developers across southeast England offered land at cost price for veterans' accommodation projects. The economic impact was instant and undeniable. Meanwhile, Khan's camp went silent. His so-called alternative proposals? Crickets. Not a single statement, not a single offer from City Hall to match the royal commitment with real resources. Then came the polling shockwave. According to overnight surveys, 68% of Londoners supported King Charles's intervention. Only 19% backed Khan's response. Even in Labour strongholds like Newham and Tower Hamlets, support for the mayor collapsed by 23 points overnight. In Barking and Dagenham, traditionally unshakable Labour territory, a staggering 71% of residents said they trusted King Charles more than Sadiq Khan to solve London's housing crisis. Across social media, #DefendTheKing trended globally for 36 consecutive hours, amassing more than 4.7 million mentions. Outside City Hall, counter-protests erupted as crowds chanted, "Khan must go." Police eventually dispersed them after midnight. And then came the truly shocking part. The movement spread beyond London. Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds, Glasgow all saw spontaneous demonstrations supporting the monarchy and condemning what protesters called Khan's Republican coup attempt. Britain wasn't just watching a mayor's meltdown. The nation was witnessing the complete collapse of radical London politics in real time. Inside Labour Party headquarters on Southwark Street, the atmosphere was described as a five-alarm disaster. Senior officials engaged in shouting matches over how to contain Khan's catastrophic blunder. Shadow cabinet members reportedly threatened to resign unless Khan was publicly rebuked. Deputy Mayor Sophie Linden was overheard telling colleagues, "He's finished. We all know it. The only question is how and when we end this. How much damage will he cause before he's forced out?" That's the question echoing through Labour's internal WhatsApp groups, many now renamed Save London Labour. Party insiders are frantically plotting intervention strategies, with emergency meetings reportedly held every 4 hours to assess the rapidly deteriorating situation. Inside Khan's own circle, the tension is explosive. His chief of staff, Nick Bowes, allegedly had a screaming confrontation with the mayor, accusing him of suicidal political instincts. 3 junior advisors have quietly updated their LinkedIn profiles, a telltale sign they're preparing to abandon ship. Sources say Khan now appears increasingly isolated, pacing his office alone late into the night, obsessively refreshing Twitter, watching his political capital evaporate in real time.
One longtime ally admitted off the record, Sadiq doesn't understand what he's done. He thinks he's fighting power, but he's actually destroying himself. Emergency phone calls between Khan and Labour leader Keir Starmer have reportedly grown so heated that staffers outside could hear shouting through closed doors. Starmer, according to one aide, told Khan bluntly, "You've made my job impossible. How am I supposed to campaign on respecting British institutions when my own London mayor is attacking the bloody king?" But here's the layer that could trigger Khan's complete political annihilation. Leaked documents from Khan's own policy unit appear to contradict everything he has publicly claimed. If genuine, and multiple senior Labour sources insist they are, the documents reveal that Khan knew King Charles's housing initiative would succeed. Internal City Hall projections, dated 2 weeks before the King's announcement, estimated that royal involvement could house 12,000 London families within 18 months. Khan's own experts confirmed the palace plan was superior to anything City Hall had developed. A leaked spreadsheet compared the numbers. City Hall proposal, 4,200 families over 2 years at a cost of $340 million in taxpayer funds. Royal Initiative, 12,000 families in less time at zero cost to taxpayers. Dr. Patricia Ora-Kofer, Khan's housing advisor, allegedly warned him in an internal memo, "We should welcome and support royal involvement. Opposing this would be politically suicidal and morally indefensible." Yet Khan attacked it anyway. Think about what that means. Khan deliberately sabotaged an initiative his own team believed would help thousands of struggling Londoners. Why? Pure political calculation. He couldn't allow King Charles to succeed where he had failed. He couldn't let the monarchy solve a crisis that exposed his own incompetence. So he chose personal ambition over London's welfare. If confirmed, the optics would be devastating. Potential resignation, possible criminal investigation for misconduct in public office, and the total destruction of Sadiq Khan's political future. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage and Reform UK are moving swiftly to seize the moment. As Labour tears itself apart, Farage appeared on GB News, calm, confident, and clearly aware that history may have just handed him London on a silver platter. Sadiq Khan has shown us exactly what Labour really thinks about Britain, Farage declared. They despise our monarchy, they despise our traditions, they despise the very identity that makes us British. No mockery, no aggression, just cold, devastating observation. Within 72 hours, Reform UK membership applications from London residents surged 340% with campaign donations flooding in from small donors, an average of £47 each from ordinary working Britons, furious at what they see as Khan's attack on Britishness itself. For the first time in modern history, Reform UK is competitive in inner London boroughs that haven't voted Conservative in decades. Candidates are being recruited in every constituency, and 3 sitting Labour councillors have already defected, citing complete disgust with Khan's anti-British stance. The polls tell the story. In a hypothetical London mayoral election held today, Khan, 31%, Conservative candidate, 28%, Reform UK, 26%. A three-way race, a fractured capital, and a mayor on the brink. A political realignment is underway, one that could hand Britain's most important city to populist forces for the first time in history. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Nigel Farage isn't just capitalizing on Khan's mistake. He's building a complete alternative vision for London, one that appeals directly to the working-class voters Labour has abandoned. At a rally in Dagenham last night, Farage unveiled Reform UK's London First housing plan, promising to prioritise British citizens over international investors and recent arrivals. For too long, Farage told a crowd of 2,400 supporters, London has served global elites while British families sleep in cars. The crowd erupted in applause. King Charles understands this, Farage continued,